That's 2024, actually. Yeah.
2024.
I don't think I don't
I
think he's running
I
this.
don't think he's running.
So that
Well,
doesn't.
just because someone's not running doesn't mean you can't vote for them.
Yeah, that is true. Um,
Wouldn't call Kanye a moderate per se.
okay. The present is I'm in a really weird situation.
No, you're not. You're literally just on a podcast.
Yeah.
And the reason there's chicken there
Compare-
because the chicken was going to go to the dumpster, and somebody felt bad that it was going to go to waste. And I just wanted to like raise awareness about like veganism and like the rising cost of meat and whether we have to stop eating meat to save the climate.
So
And
I want to like point out that the amount of food waste is very high. This is an example of wasted food, not really an example that people would be unable to save meat without switching to veganism, because could eat this, and this was found in a dumpster, as you have mentioned. This looks like 4 pieces of raw chicken. Um,
There's no obvious defects you can see from this.
yeah, I'm sure you could still cook these, and they would still taste fine because even if they are slightly expired, you can still get rid of the bacteria in them. Um, and they don't look like they have like decomposed. So my bet is that they were taken out of the freezer. Um, Food waste is a severe problem. Have you seen John Oliver?
Yes.
who's that?
He's a late night show host.
Yeah. Now, 6 years ago, he had an episode on food waste, and he was noting that although meat generally isn't wasted as much as vegetables, something like 90% of vegetables are just wasted because they have to meet the quality specifications. Where, yeah, you could still eat those vegetables, but they're not food quality.
So
They don't look they don't look like the types of things that consumers will actually buy at a restaurant. Instead, what they'll do is they'll say, "Oh, this is." They'll say that this is low grade, and therefore they can't sell it. They'll take everything that's A grade, they'll put it in restaurants. They'll take everything that's B grade, they'll turn that into jam, and everything that's C grade, they really can't like effectively use it because the way how things are, sometimes you get a better yield, sometimes you get a worse yield. If you have way more yield than you normally do, all that C grade stuff that you have generally gets dumped.
So what you're saying is only 10% of all the food vegetables that is picked is actually for human consumption. That's rated right now.
Generally for vegetables, that is
Vegetables.
the case.
Vegetables.
There's a low percentage that actually is taken from the farm and actually goes to your table.
Right.
So some people are annoyed that food prices are kept artificially high because there's way more supply than there is demand,
Yeah.
currently at least. So it's not infeasible to imagine that if you were to change a lot of systems and put in regulations on how certain things are done, you could dramatically lower the price of food.
Yeah. Because then add on to that is like, if we have that much supply and they've basically created this hierarchy of A, B, C, how much of that hierarchy really makes sense? If I ate a B grade vegetable, how would I get immediately just
No.
get sick?
So at a restaurant,
Yes.
or sorry, at a supermarket, you generally look at the fruits that you want to buy,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to pick one that looks even like 5% worse, even if it tastes the same. So that would be a B grade fruit, basically.
So it's the visuals, but actually not the food. It's
Yeah,
going to
it's merely describing how likely a consumer is to actually buy it and pick it up off the table.
oh.
So yeah, B grade stuff is perfectly fine for jam because it doesn't taste different from what I remember hearing a long time ago.
So look maxing exists in food.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, well that's one hell of a statement right there. And C grade then so B grade is for jams. A grade just you look at
B
it.
grade also will be fine,
Yeah.
but if you've seen, I actually have an image of a like blackberry because I was out 2 days ago.
We'll show this image later. On screen right now over here to the side.
Yeah, let me see because I have over 6 plants down to when I saw blackberries like these. Those are blackberries, but those are like from a dried out plant.
Well,
So
okay.
these are technically blackberries,
It
they
looks
they
similar
would not taste like blackberries anymore because they're
dried
of
out.
like really low quality. So this would be like F grade or something.
F grade. Not you
Actually,
just
no, sorry, not F grade because they're not decomposing and they're not like clearly infected. So this would be
wow,
like D grade.
D grade. I
Um,
can't believe there is an F and D grade. Well,
I'm
it kind of makes sense.
I'm
It's just
I'm putting words to it. I know A and B grade exist, and I know with eggs they have like double A
they have
grade.
double it. Yes.
Um, I'm not 100% sure on how raspberries are graded. I'm merely going with A through F because I'm fairly confident A and B exist. But
A and B exists. I know C also exists. D, F, we're gonna find out right here on the side.
there's no world in which they would sell something like that
F grade.
because
They
although
would,
yeah,
yeah, they would not.
if you were to find that in nature and you were like, oh, those look like blackberries, I identify that they are blackberries. Therefore, I should be able to eat them. And clearly, they don't look quite right, but I should be able to eat them. And they should taste somewhat like blackberries.
Blackberries.
In that situation, it's okay. But would you buy that from a store when you could just walk outside and find it in a bush? No,
No.
it's not economical. People will not buy that for like market value ever. Well, market value of a blackberry. Those are those are some pretty expensive berries.
Very expensive berries.
So is all this food wasted, or is it just given to animals to eat? Like we could feed all this waste to goats, and then we could just eat more goat meat.
Okay, so ideally, yes, that would be what you would want to do. Practically, no. Practically, that's just not how things are done. At one point, I forget which orange manufacturer had a whole bunch of like oil peel waste, like orange peel waste, not or whatever I said, a whole bunch of orange peel waste, and they threw that into like a former rainforest area, and because of the amount of carbon in it, that was able to help rejuvenate life there.
Wow.
So it's because it's got all the critical ingredients
Yeah.
for life. So
Makes sense.
if it decomposes and animals go get to it, and nobody's eating orange peels normally. I have.
How was that
Um,
experience?
Not excellent. Let's see. I did tell you that after a midterm, before a midterm, I ate a piece of paper with notes on it. Because somebody said, "Oh, I bet you, if you won't get a 80%, you have to eat. You have to eat a piece of paper." That's a joke. There was no expectation that I'd actually do it, and I just was like, "Okay, I'll do this now." I didn't. I didn't care to wait if I actually
This
did it or
man's
not.
word is his bond right here.
I never gave a word that I would. I just did it.
Oh, never mind. This is just his bond right here. He's just
All right,
straight
well,
bond.
I think we should spice things up a bit. And Ricky, how about you tell us about your grandfather and his story in life?
Okay. Um, so my family came to the United States from Cuba. You can read up about the Mariel boat lift, and that is the approximate time and events of it. Um, Jimmy Carter signed legislation. I forget exactly what the legislation was,
Right.
but the legislation was that they would accept any political dissidents from Cuba, and yeah, that's the general story. My grandfather was in prison at that time. That I believe the legislation was signed, so he got out, and not 100% certain that he was in prison. I know he was in prison in 1980. I think that's when it was signed, but I could be off by 1 year in the negative direction.
So was Jimmy Carter the one arresting your grandpa, or was it
No, no, no.
Cuba?
Cuba.
Cuba.
Yes.
Okay.
Cuba was Jimmy Carter was saying that any exile, if he was following the Bay of Pigs by a significant amount of time. Bay of Pigs was the failed invasion of Cuba, where a whole bunch of Cuban exiles tried to land in Cuba and effectively try to overthrow the government, practically do nothing.
It's a pretty good footnote, though. We'll add that in the description.
Yeah,
below.
so this is after them, and my grandfather is a political dissident in Cuba at this time. He was I remember my mom describing some radio system where clothesline would then have hangers coming off of it, and supposedly by arranging these hangers, the signal was boosted, and he was able to tune to radio stations. Now I'm actually in RF right now. This sounds like you're making like a really low quality antenna, and you could very well just cut the um, cut the hangers to like the right length. But supposedly he bent them at the ends to get them to the right length. I'm I would not do that now because I feel like I can waste a little bit of metal, but you should be able to tone it.
Yeah.
That should work out.
Yeah.
He also made explosives,
Oh,
homemade ones. So
did he pass down that knowledge?
not to me.
Not to you.
That being said, I'm confident that Google search and 15 minutes isn't that long.
Join us on our second episode when we find this out for ourselves.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that there's cheap ways how to make something. I don't know. I was watching Veritasium yesterday, and he was talking about thermite.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah,
It was
so
a good video.
he specifies in the video they want to dehydrate the thermite. Why do they want to do that? Because water expands into steam.
Yep.
So that's an explosive now. Boom. That's a readily available thing that you can do. You could easily get like just chunks of iron rust. That sounds like a easy thing to get a significant quantity of. And
Yeah. There's tons of it, especially if you're in
oh, yeah,
Detroit.
I already
You can
have
get it.
I already have aluminum rods at home because I was building an antenna with them. I can literally just take a file and then just file them to length.
Yeah.
That works, and that would be really low quality thermite, I imagine, because I would have very low quality rust, but my aluminum would be pretty high quality.
Going back to the antenna thing.
Yes.
So I have a question for you. So when you said he was making the antennas out of hangers,
Mhm.
was he actually like taking a physical hanger, like basically cutting them up and just like actually attaching them together?
Supposedly, there was a photo that I saw on a U.S. Army technical manual from 1962,
Right.
and the description that I've heard from my mother vaguely resembles that. Now, to tie back in to the primary part of the story.
Yeah.
So my grandfather is in prison at this time. My mother, he tries to swim out of this prison, and she says, "Swim to America."
It's a distance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 90 miles. That's not like possible. While he was swimming out, he got shot twice by guards.
Damn. In the water, he was shot.
Yeah. In Mythbusters, they tell you, oh, well, you can't shoot through water that's like more than I think like 3 feet deep at like the angle that they would be shooting at, but you have to come up for air. Basically.
Yeah.
There's no way.
There's some theories that if you were put to the test and you were the subject, you really wouldn't want to find out.
Yeah, you are. He was a good swimmer, allegedly. I have never seen him swim. He is dead now, so
R.I.P.
that I would not know. I would not have first person evidence, but still, you have to surface at some point. That doesn't make sense that you would even want to like consider that.
Right.
So he gets taken back to shore, and so on and so forth. I did not see bullet marks on him. Saw him when I was young because I did not see his back exposed. But I'm very willing to believe the story because that just makes sense.
Sounds like something that has been said before by other people that have also escaped.
Yeah. So clearly he did not escape in that way.
Yeah.
Very, very evidently. Also in a effectively imported gulag, right?
Yes.
The conditions there are not excellent. So he ultimately died of liver failure, stage 4. This would be a time where you would get a whole lot of issues with supposedly drinking salt water or some other types of near torture things.
Mm-hmm.
This would be an excellent time for you to go on that path to do that. That being said, I want to imagine that it's a combination of that and then eating a very high salt diet afterwards that really is the nail in the coffin. I don't think. Okay, effectively, if it was so bad, he would have developed liver failure right then and there. I'm not denying that he would have had liver problems, but outright liver failure and dying from it is somewhat of a dietary choice that you've made 20 years, no, not even 20 years afterwards, 30 years afterwards.
30%.
So I I feel that it's more plausible that somebody has just messed up their diet to die that way rather than not denying that did have an impact, but it seems like that was that's what. So Jimmy Carter has this law which says that any medicine can actually head over. So Castro, I believe, or somebody else in significant power, says, okay, you can escape. Though the rules are you can't bring a Cuban ship out there. So they get on a ship that they have constructed, effectively a raft, and that is how my family gets over. Mariel Boatlift describes. I showed you the Wikipedia image of it. They're all walking on a bridge. And it's nice. Anyway, that would not be it. After going to Cuba, from Cuba to Florida, my family was then taken into internment, which you would expect because of quarantine. And there's a question of, did you bring AIDS with you? Because it's the 80s.
True.
And also, it wasn't just effectively anti-communist prisoners who they brought over. They'd also tried to send any LGBTQ people as well to just pretty much.
They're asking if your family had brought any LGBTQ people.
No, they would bring LGBTQ people in order to dilute that. So they were trying to get rid of the scum of society. Since they were now given leeway, we can just send whoever. Okay. There's people who we don't want, but they would probably actually do better in America
than they would over there. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So we also want to just send people who neither of us like, and you're just going to get them as a bonus because we don't like you either. So consequently, that type of precaution makes some sense.
Right.
So it was in Pennsylvania, that internment. That lasted a certain length of time. Then he went out to California later because there was somebody living there. I do not know who the contact that my family had in California was. Just don't. My grandfather then worked at auto repair for the rest of his life. He ended up having 2 businesses, but he ended up getting a hernia from overexerting himself, like the wire mesh hernias.
Yeah,
You've
heard
seen
of it.
Yeah. So that's overexerting yourself, lifting with your back instead of your legs, so on and so forth. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's a great way how to mess yourself up. And also simultaneously, don't eat a absurdly high salt diet for years on end. And when your doctor says you have liver failure, don't continue doing that.
That does sound like some good advice. Don't eat
don't
salt after liver failure.
High salt.
High salt. Yeah.
I had an issue October 6th, the same day that I was taking this, because so it was 100 degrees roughly.
Yeah.
95 to 100-ish, depending on where I was. I got there nice and normal, and then I saw a way back home, and it was not. I could have taken the same way back. That would have taken the same amount of time, roughly speaking. But I also saw a different way, and that was slightly faster. I decided to take the slightly faster way, apparently, and I was taking the orange line, and then I get delayed. Levi Stadium had a game So 49ers game, I see like there's a whole ton of people. I look around in the light rail, and I'm like the one of two people who's not wearing like 49ers merch.
Truly unique that day.
Yeah, the bus gets delayed, so then they don't make it to the bus.
Ah, you're just stuck there in the heat then.
Yeah, so then the next bus doesn't come.
You're really stuck in the heat.
So I've waited 30 minutes. Then I wait for the next bus, and then at the time that it's supposed to arrive, it's not there. So I start walking. I then see it and go, oh, well, I've walked a quarter mile. I can't just run to the next bus stop because I'm running over a freeway intersection, like one of those bridges. So I just ultimately couldn't do that. I was like, well, shucks. I guess I will just
Walk.
It's 4 miles. I can walk. So I ended up doing that. Wasn't ideal. It was pretty tiring, but
Yeah.
I get home, and obviously, if I'm in temperature that high, I'm sweating. So I'm losing. Your body tries to sweat off same amount of sodium and potassium that's inside of you, so you can keep in regulation.
Mhm.
So you don't send your sodium levels or potassium levels super high. But by the time I get home, I'm clearly dehydrated.
Right.
So I drink a lot of water. So I've drank a whole lot of water, probably about like 4 glasses, roughly.
A liter or so.
Yeah, and I've not had any salt or potassium. That's not good. Just in general, that's not good. um, I looked at this afterwards. I started getting all the symptoms for hyponatremia, constipation,
Mm.
where started feeling like slightly bloated and messed up that way. Confusion, like acute confusion,
Okay.
inability to like stay on topic for a little while. You kind of just ping pong between topics at like a really
Oh, that's
fast
just
speed.
me every 5 seconds.
Like like it seems like you're like changing topics every like 2 to 3 seconds.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because I don't know how we got to this conversation about constipation. And so
This started from salt.
Yes, salt. Yeah. I said I had the exact opposite issue that my grandfather had just 2 days ago.
So the
So
lesson
constipation,
is...
confusion, also migraines. Migraines were the most like notable thing. Migraines coming from the salt in your brain that typically stays because that's not like stuff that your body can like sweat out. So that has relatively high levels of salt by comparison.
Oh, hold on. How much? Just you said there's salt in our brain.
Mhm.
Okay, can you go a little bit more deep into that? Like, what do you mean by that exactly?
Your brain should have like chemicals in order to get it to function.
Right. Okay.
So it should have some salt ions in it. It should
Salt
have.
ions. We're talking like minute amounts, probably.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But
It's not something
compared to the rest of your body, if you have really low amounts of salt in the rest of your body, it's high by comparison.
high by comparison. Okay. It's not something I should be worried about. It's like, damn, I have too little salt in my brain or something. It's like, no, my body's self.
You will notice it if it is an issue with migraines.
So migraines is the lack of salt.
Okay. In my case, it is what caused it.
Okay.
That is not the only cause of it. I want to clarify that.
That's about the thing. I thought you got a miracle solution to migraines. We just need more salt in my brain.
So the big lesson here today is
No, so
don't have too much salt, don't have too little salt.
Yeah, regulate the amount of salt you have. But salt is really polar, so that will draw in water. So your cells will uptake the water.
Okay.
Now that means your cells will expand.
Yeah.
That means you will build up pressure in your brain. That is the acute thing that causes the sense of migraines.
Migraines and all this confusion.
That pressure comes from like the main part of your brain, puts pressure on your brainstem. And I was trying to sleep because I was thinking, oh, I'll just sleep off a migraine.
Mm-hmm. That's very normal.
That's a very much more normal thing than just, oh, what I ended up doing was at midnight, I just took a spoonful of salt and was just like, yep, here's a spoonful of salt, here's a banana, I'll eat a banana. And then I fell asleep within an hour. But it's much more normal, I think, to try to like turn off the lights, not have any sound, and go to bed.
Do you usually sleep with lights and sound on?
If you have a severe enough migraine,
Oh, you want to like just kind of dilute
light
it.
light will just make you will make the symptoms worse.
Okay.
Um, you need a severe case of migraines in order for that to happen, and also sound as well. Um, input into your mind is not just doesn't feel good.
It's like having an input in, but the function itself of your head is just not working correctly. It can't take in all the information you're putting into it. That's why you really
No,
want
you can take all the information in. It just makes you get confused, more like faster, and then you need to take a mental break from like looking at bright objects. um,
Mm,
exactly.
yeah.
If you have a migraine that bad, try to probably don't do what I did and just think, oh, just sleep it off. That it's
Wait.
ultimately not what solved it for me. So
Yeah.
maybe don't.
What was ultimately the solution to this?
I told you I took a spoonful of salt, not the whole spoonful.
Oh, that was the solution. Okay, yeah.
And banana,
Banana.
and that got my electrolytes back. Generally, sports drinks. That's the reason they put electrolytes in them. Because the idea is you lose all the electrolytes in sweat, and then if you drink water, you would lower your electrolytes. This is only really ever an issue in like extreme exercise, where
Extreme exercise, I would imagine like something really, really physical.
something that makes you sweat a whole lot for a long time. That
Long
makes
distance running, soccer, sport,
that type of thing.
Okay.
Similar to walking through a 100 degree day for so walking like 3 miles, then that'd be another 2 miles, that'd be another 4 miles. So that has me like 9 miles, and
9
then also
miles.
like waiting at the bus stop. I'm also hot.
You have a pretty good cardio system.
Yeah, pretty good, but that is not what made me collapse, and the water afterwards made me have issues.
Oh, yeah. So clearly, your body just needed energy there.
No, I was good with energy.
Oh, energy.
Like I ate enough
water.
food. I was okay. Water you need for metabolism.
I'm assuming this chicken wouldn't help.
It's unsalted chicken. It's raw chicken. Um,
Yeah, that's just unsalted chicken, just right there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
you know,
Did you bring it here?
He brought it here. He's the one who carried it in.
I was told to bring it here. You were the one who had it in the car.
I just felt so bad for it. Just
The chicken?
sitting in a dumpster without serving a purpose. I wanted to give it like one last moment.
Why is
as I say, it is probably in a dumpster because it was probably in a dumpster, not it is in a dumpster. It might as well be because this is not a conventional kitchen.
Why is it the chicken's last moment in front of a camera on the library?
Well, his last moment was probably in a slaughterhouse. This is just like it's tribute.
Oh, yeah. One story about my grandfather. So in Cuba, people will have like a guest of a party. So the animal is killed and then grilled and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody, a guest of honor at a party, will then kill an animal.
That's fun.
Yeah.
They like start taking knife, like take its head off.
So the conventional way how you would kill a chicken in one of those things is you grab its neck and then you wring it and you break its spine.
Oh.
That's the conventional way.
What's
My grandfather ended up not doing that because he did not have the optimal form for doing so. So
did you say there's an optimal form for this?
Yes, there's an optimal form for this.
Okay.
To wring a chicken to kill it. And more like modern things, people like kill chickens by putting its neck beneath a stick, like generally a metal bar, and then pulling up its body by the legs, and then the head will stay on the other side. And people don't generally eat the head here, so that doesn't matter.
Fine, yeah.
It's food waste.
Yeah.
I mean, it's food waste, but everyone collectively agreed that we're gonna waste the food.
Still
So
food waste.
he ultimately did not end up killing the chicken by wringing it. So he ended up killing it by stepping on the chicken's head.
That's one way of doing it.
And supposedly the eyeball popped out. I was not yet born to observe that. So that is one way how to go for a chicken.
So what's more cruel, having your head twisted until your spine breaks, or having your skull crushed?
Okay, optimally, I said optimal form. It should be instant. You should only have to ring it once, and it should die. On like the first pass, you should have enough force in order to break its spine.
Just like instant death.
Yeah, you should just break its spine immediately.
Okay.
And then crushing its skull is probably a little bit more pain and a little bit more
Slow,
suffering.
failing to ring it to death,
It's painful.
I imagine would be a
Very.
lot more painful than just successfully doing it the first time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't think that's really comparable here. Yeah, so in terms of the pain experience playing M1 is clearly significantly higher.
Yeah.
I also don't think that that's especially what they cared about at that moment. They more have cared about, does the animal die effectively? They also had pigs that they would kill. Cuba has a lot of
Pigs.
pigs at that
Is
time.
that why they call it the Bay of Pigs over there? Is it actually?
I would not know. The
Okay.
reason.
I would assume it's a lot of pigs. Maybe there's just a bay full of pigs. That's what they call it, a Bay of Pigs.
I could imagine that.
That makes sense, huh?
Yeah.
The Portuguese, when they settled the Azores, I believe, they brought pigs there. And they destroyed the environment. Also,
Beautiful.
like the dodo birds.
Yes.
I believe that was British that sent in pigs.
I believe that was actually Dutch.
Okay.
Yeah.
That also could be correct.
Then again, they're usually in like the same
Because
area.
Dutch East Indies,
Yeah.
that would also make sense.
Yeah.
What was I? Also, they brought pigs in to Florida. The Spanish did, and that ended up getting a whole lot of Native Americans sick.
Mhm.
But there is no like simple just wring the pig's neck way of killing a pig, because a pig is too heavy to do.
Unless
that.
you're like Goliath himself, I don't see how you could do that. Yeah.
Yes, so they would use knives to kill pigs. It's kind of a weird hunt thing.
Wait, is this a wild pig or is this an actual like pig you just like get from a farm?
Pig you get from a farm.
Okay. When you said like, I thought you meant like a wild pig for a second. You're just gonna hunt it with a knife.
Not denying that's not possible. But I remember my mom telling me that some people went to the hospital because they tried to stab the pig and ended up stabbing their fingers. It is a
Happens.
pig that is very much trying to live.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But culturally, that was done there. We do not do that here. I know there's also some things that you do in order to cook pigs, but I cannot remember exactly what the thing was. I feel it was something as interesting as like cooking a pig in the ground with like coal or like charcoal.
Oh, is it similar to how do tandoori chicken sort of? They actually have like a furnace in the ground and they put the meat into there, kind of like slow cook it, sort of.
I think that would be it.
Okay.
It would explain why the pulled pork is the way it is.
Sense.
Does that seem like slow cooked meat? I would definitely believe that is the way that it was cooked, but I no longer have confidence in my memory on that thing. I think that's true, but I no longer feel credible in saying it anymore.
Right.
You very much could just go look that up and see if I'm right or not.
Right. Okay.
And high chance I'm wrong. Easily 30.
So let's talk about stuff that we can't say is wrong or right. Things that are uncertain. Let's talk about the future.
For purpose of argument, Trump and Kamala Trump and Harris, sorry, are running this are in this election, and they are the ones who are going to win. By every single pollster is saying there is
One of the two.
over 99% chance that's going to happen. RFK Jr. is in the race in some select states. He has endorsed Trump, and I believe he is still on the ballot in some states.
He is.
So that is what it is. I don't think Jill Stein is here anymore. I think somebody else is running the Green Party. And I don't remember the Libertarian guy. I remember Gary Johnson in 2020.
It's not Gary Johnson anymore. I know that much.
And then maybe like a constitutionalist also exists. There are third-party options. I just want to say that they are not really valid due to the spoiler effect and the way how the electoral college is set up. there are ways like ranked choice voting that do some way partially fix this issue. In Alaska, they have ranked choice voting.
Yep.
The Democrat won because they sent a MAGA option, they sent a Republican option, they sent a Democrat option, and the Republican options generally chose the Democrat option as a second. So that just resulted in after the Republican candidate was eliminated, then the Democrat got the most votes. So Pallotta, I believe, Mary Pallotta, I believe, won the election. So there are systems that exist that can avoid the spoiler effect, where you can actually have the second most appreciated candidate actually winning.
Mhm.
But we do not have that in large in America. That's just not how. It's just not
Is
how.
there a significant opposition on putting that in there, or is that something that
Okay.
no one
So
really wants to put in?
if you were to make a system that takes the two parties that we have,
Right.
and instead of each of them getting roughly 50% of the electorate, maybe like Bernie Sanders is an independent technically, but he's still caucusing with Democrats, so
Yeah,
he's effectively a Democrat.
Effectively.
So we can say 50-50 perfect split almost, because I think we have less third-party candidates in office right now than we used to, and I also think polarization is higher than it used to be. You have to vacate somebody's seat in order to throw in these third-party candidates, right?
Yes.
Those are real seats held by real senators. They would have a vested interest in not letting that happen. Right?
Yes.
So there we are. That's a.
So long as it's kind of like a deadlock, kind of.
However many third-party candidates you want to put into Congress is however many congressmen are are effectively your avowed opposition.
So no, there's no benefit from either side to go and look at this and be like, this can help in our favor. Like this is really just a net negative
Okay.
for all of them.
Libertarians tend to be closer to Republicans
Yeah.
in certain senses. Their ideas are not really Republican ideas, generally speaking.
Makes sense.
Republicans may want to talk about smaller governments, but at the same time, they're like, actually, we want to have big government for abortion. Actually, we want to have big government for drugs, not big abortion.
That's all. Big abortion is not a term I've heard very often.
Yeah, sorry. They also, by looking at history, and they aren't really for lowering taxes on poor people. That's not how it's been. They also claim that they want to decrease the federal debt, but that's something that seems to exist only when a Democrat is in power and not a Republican.
I believe in the debates, nobody mentioned debt, neither side.
Neither side did.
I believe that debt is no longer the strong Republican talking point it was, because Republicans have played it horribly by ramping up debt in Trump's presidency and ramping it up in Bush's presidency. Sure, you can say Iraq War, you can say COVID, but I think Trump, independent of COVID, is still running worse than Obama was. And please do check that. Please do check that. That actually is good information. I would like to know that. And even tell me afterwards.
We'll try.
that,
If we find
may
something,
not,
it's
that
above
may
me.
not actually be easy to find because it's a weird part of the presidency.
Yeah.
That because of that, I'm not like fully convinced that Republicans are better on that issue. So they really don't have anything to run on from experience. They're no longer the party of corporate interests, and Democrats have moved toward the corporate interests, generally speaking. Because of this, well, can you really, it doesn't really make sense anymore for Republicans to really run off of that idea.
Right.
Instead, they're running off of culture war ideas now.
Yeah. But going back to the libertarian thing.
Libertarian things. I'm saying that in order to enforce these things on the government,
Mhm.
like in order to enforce these things, like you have to have a significant size of government.
Right.
I'm aware of the like original libertarians who existed a certain while ago
Mhm.
would say we want to see legalize every single drug. Um, please legalize prostitution. Please legalize pretty much everything.
Mhm.
Everything that doesn't like directly harm somebody. Um, it isn't done unwillingly.
Mhm.
Legalize those things. Um, it sounds more of a like pure idea. It seems more of like
Idealistic.
yeah. It seems like this is more of the communism has never been tried in practice. Has never been tried in practice, but then with libertarianism, so they can't say that it has failed because we haven't seen Soviet Union, so therefore
So
True.
can't fail. Though in practice, this means there's no federal funding for safety nets at all.
Yeah.
At all. Some of them, they will say, by and large, that this is in fact better, and that safety nets are detrimental for American society. Um, I just don't believe that. I believe that you could look at the world as it is now. I saw on Reddit earlier today, people on a trank in Philadelphia. There's, I find it really hard to believe that those people need less intervention.
they need rehab.
See, they need some intervention, which is
Yeah. Intervention. Yeah.
against these like pure libertarian ideals. And also, one of the video games that I played, Victoria 2, um, libertarian ideas about laissez-faire capitalism, I just dislike from that game because the I don't know, if you cause like a small market shock somewhere, then they'll start doing their very typical, oh, if demand has decreased, if supply has decreased because somebody else has started selling it, that means I'm less profitable. And if they're subsidizing because they don't have laissez-faire capitalism over there, and I'm not because I have laissez-faire capitalism, then my factory is no longer profitable. So I should just close my factory right now, and then I should just sell my factory. And so typically, when you get a laissez-faire capitalism party in power, you generally see a lot of your war industry, if you're not at war, just vanish, just overnight. Everything that you can't actually make at competitive prices also vanishes. So if you ever have any type of market strain for any reason outside of what you were planning at that exact moment,
You're done for.
you have now just shot yourself 5 years back in economic planning.
Mhm. Sounds very reminiscent to what happened right after the Soviet Union collapsed with a lot of manufacturing in America.
Yeah, that's shock therapy, and I see that as libertarianism. So Union failed due to communism,
Yeah.
and failed due to the fact that they were very isolated in the world. Failed due to the fact that they couldn't really increase productivity because their system did not design for that. Um, Plenty of reasons.
Right.
Um, the ideals of communism just did not lend themselves to economic planning.
Mhm.
Not saying that cannot be done, but that would require a significant rework at Soviet style communism.
Yeah.
AI could do it. Make things just right.
You know, I don't think so.
Everybody who has power is going to have power because their great 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 grandfather had power, and
I
at that point, then you need
would
to just
disagree with that. There's just always been the common saying, it's like, yeah, sure, your grandpa could have been successful, your dad can also be successful, but after a certain time, they had to get skills. Your grandpa had skills to guard that place, but he can only give so many of his skills to your dad, only so much to you. 90% of businesses don't last after 10 years, and 90% of businesses don't last after 3 generations.
When a business gets large enough, they start becoming too big to fail.
Yeah,
In those cases,
but even then,
that starts happening. And if
they
you
don't stay on the
let
top though.
if you let like if you let the free market just continue and you don't have any system in order to, you don't have any antitrust laws,
Mhm.
eventually you would just consolidate power into as small of a group as possible.
I mean, yeah, that's sure, but
So in that sense, yeah, you get some group that's too big to fail, and yeah, you actually can just get a hereditary system.
you can. But then again, end up with something like IBM. IBM is just like, yeah, but they've been there forever, but they don't do anything now.
I'm talking like centuries from now.
Centuries from now.
Okay,
How
so-
many businesses do you know have been last for centuries?
Well, that's the thing.
So there could be a merger between like Microsoft, Apple, and Samsung.
Yeah.
If there's no antitrust laws.
Right.
Going back into this libertarianism thing, and they're allowed to collaborate with each other on market prices, and effectively just fuse into one thing,
Mhm.
and you have one product.
Right.
Communism, this exists a lot. Voice crack, interesting.
I don't know.
In communism, this exists a lot, where you have one standardized product, and then you don't have a whole lot of anything else, and there's no competition between that product and a similar looking product
Yeah.
that are available on the market. You can have cases where this is a better system. You have the space is a very interesting thing, where the Soviets actually did have competition between rivaling design bureaus, and in the United States, NASA was a single consolidated entity that did send things out to companies. But in America, the culture of competition is a lot healthier than the culture of competition in a country with no capitalist system. So people believed that we're actually out to get each other, and the main space guy, space director Korolev,
Mhm.
he was sent to the Gulag for being a spy or something by somebody who he then had to work with. So clearly, they did not like each other, and
That's what an interesting relationship they must have with their colleague.
hence it was true competition. Competition in a way that people just had like personal vendettas against each other. That's not how you want to make a.
It's less about the technology and more about actually trying to outpass each other.
That means that there would be some ideas that existed that may have worked and that just did not get funding. Is what it is.
Sounds like a pretty common trope that happens a lot with Soviet ambitions when it comes with engineering and stuff. With the, I'm not sure, the chronoplanes, you know of those? The ground effect planes.
Yep. I
Similar
don't know. I would not know if that is in the same era. I know that that's true for like the Soviet moon mission, which was like a year before the U.S. one, I think.
Yes.
Only to just
and their space
detonate.
shuttle, which is still rotting away in a.
Yeah, the Buran.
The Buran is still rotting away somewhere, and
Yeah, it's somewhere in Kazakhstan probably.
yep, it's just there. It's not been taken care of or anything. It's just there lying around, despite being objectively a better craft than what we had produced.
Yeah, I remember reading about that, and it's like, yeah, it does look better. But at the same time, we don't really have the demand in order to put huge things into space
True.
right now. So if we did have that demand, the Buran would be an excellent model in order to do that.
Mhm.
Just we don't do that anymore. We've built the
At least not
ISS.
now. Yeah.
Built the ISS. Our plan is to go to the moon. And the moon. You're not going to build a.
You could.
I guess you could deliver payloads into low Earth orbit and then assemble a craft in space.
Nice.
That sounds like a Kerbal Space Program idea. That does not sound like a.
See, that's actually what a lot of these startups are now going to do for it now in Y Combinator, where they're actually pitching the idea of we can actually just make a small station there and let robotic hands, arms, basically.
No. I'm talking about like building a spaceship in space.
Oh, building a spaceship itself in space. We would have to assemble
And then
basic modules first.
and then giving it a human crew.
It's not
So-
happening for the next 5 years.
That
at
sounds
least.
like a bad idea. That sounds like a safety risk. Yeah, it is 10:28. I want to.
Well, thank you for
I have a class
joining
at
us, sir.
10:30. Not that hand.
Oh, let's do this.
Yeah.
What'd you use
Yeah.
fat hand?
Not the chicken.
Well, here. Oh, is that chicken hand?
Yeah.
Just do this.
This side. Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you for
Wonderful,
joining
thank you.
us in this
Yeah.
first episode.
I've tried to be careful to not have like this entire side of the hand touch it.
Yeah. See you next time.